Now recognize Mike Gonzalez for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Taylor Greene, Ranking Member Lynch, for allowing me to appear before you today. My name is Mike Gonzalez. I'm a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. The views expressed are my own and should not be construed as representing any official position of the Heritage Foundation. Before joining Heritage 16 years ago, I was a journalist for many years. I worked in Latin America, Asia, and Europe, traveled with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, was arrested in Panama, witnessed China's takeover of Hong Kong, and covered the stock market for the Wall Street Journal. I have even covered high school sports. I know that journalists can keep their prejudices in check. That is, if they want to. This ability to give all sides a hearing becomes an even more serious obligation when taxpayers are coerced to pay for you. Yet NPR, PBS, and the other state broadcasters refuse to abide by this simple code of decency. For decades, they've asked for more money while telling conservatives to get lost. But the nation today is in a very different place, with $36 trillion in debt, and more importantly, we're seeing not just a shift in our cultural vibe, but a shift in societal paradigms. Through their egregious bias, NPR and PBS have violated the public trust. Public media needs to be defunded, and the CPB needs to be dissolved. It's a matter of simple fairness. Multiple arguments can be made. I will list just a few. We're deeply in debt. Number two, the arrangement is unfair to private sector media competitors. Number three, public broadcasting was created with the promise that it would be educational. But now that thousands of competitors have come online, public media has become, as George Will says, like the human appendix, vestigial and purposeless. The funding is a regressive tax, an obnoxious wealth transfer from working families to the affluent. But the ultimate factor is the broadcaster's unforgivable political bias. What we have today is a circular, undemocratic relationship. Democrats unanimously vote for more and more money for public media, and in exchange, public media heavily tips the scale in their favor. It is a nice arrangement for them, but it must end. NPR's and PBS's full-hearted embrace of progressive views and constant denigration of conservative ones is quantifiable. I referred you to my written testimony. Besides my own examples, I cite the research of Tim Graham, as well as NPR veteran Yuri Berliner, who says, quote, an open-minded spirit no longer exists within NPR. Rather than pause and reflect, NPR instead chose to circle the wagons and assassinate Berliner's character. This is part of a pattern. In 2010, NPR fired Juan Williams and vilified him as a psycho after he dared to flout the network's progressive orthodoxy. The people running NPR remain, in Mr. Williams' words, an insulated cadre of people who think they're right and who have a hard time with people who are different. They went completely off the rails when Donald Trump was elected in 2016. Coverage, quote, veered towards efforts to topple the Trump presidency, Berliner said. NPR hitched its wagon to the false claim that Russia had colluded with the Trump campaign. It also refused to cover the Hunter Biden lab story. After the 2020 riots, NPR firmly sided with those who affirmed, without a shred of evidence, that America is an oppressive society gripped by systemic racism. NPR and PBS even justified looting. Rather than use journalism as a truth-seeking tool, NPR and PBS distorted journalism to further a political agenda. Yamiche Alcindor, the liberal activist that PBS hired to cover the White House, routinely used the platform to make unsubstantiated allegations against President Trump. President Biden, she presented as, quote, a moral undecent man, unquote. Or consider Catherine Marr's appointment as NPR CEO. Her long record of comments leave zero doubt that she's not only a committed progressive, but someone whose disdain for free expression disqualifies her from being anywhere close to the levers of power at a media institution. And what does she think of President Trump? He's, quote, a deranged, racist sociopath. Ms. Marr is an American. She's entitled to her views. The question is whether NPR is entitled to appoint her as CEO and then ask conservatives to just pony up. Public media's main argument now is that it is essential for weather emergencies in hard-to-reach places, and that without public money, local news will cease to exist. But over 98% of Americans today have a mobile phone. Even Alaska, one of our most isolated states, has high levels of internet penetration. As for the claim that the taxpayer is the last available business model for local news, NPR and PBS are asking us to believe something laughable, that the government can fund a media structure that actually keeps the government in check. I urge you not to try to mend public broadcasting. End it. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you.